Meta Perspective Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to Meta Perspective Podcast. We're your hosts, Alex,
Evan,
and the girl. This is the show where we talk about deep and interesting topics and try to get to the heart of the idea through multiple perspectives.
But if you are joining us for the first time, please give the channel a follow and the video a like. We plan to do random giveaways, fun things like that in the future, so it doesn't hurt to stay active.
Speaking of staying active, don't forget to jump in that chat. We want to hear future topic ideas from you, just interesting thoughts you have. But most importantly, we want you in this conversation with us, because Meta Perspective Podcast is not meta
without your perspective.
What are you doing, step bro?
Change that.
Yeah, well,
especially keeping on our toes. That came
we're
default,
gonna
right?
we're gonna fix that.
Anyway, but yeah, thanks for joining, guys. This is live. We have the chat pulled up here, so if you say anything during the conversation, if you agree with us, disagree with us, anything to add, we'll be able to respond to it. It's not going to be shown on screen or anything like that, but we want you guys to add to this. And if you're watching, in post, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think, and we'll always come back to these topics. Speaking of coming back to topics, we started doing a series thing this year. We did a couple episodes. I think we did 2 series before this, and then we started a spiritual series, and it's I think this episode like 14 or 15. So it's becoming more than a series. We might just kind of, might change the name, or either way, all of the things we've been talking about the last, few months have been all in the context of things that we've said in prior episodes. So try to check those out if you, like this kind of thing. But tonight we're going to kind of go maybe into a bit more of an abstract idea. And it's the idea of, God, or like the consciousness of God and the ego, or, the perceived self, or, who you think you are, your perception of yourself. So I guess I'll start the conversation off by kind of laying out what I think, the either the problem or something that I see in this idea. And it's that, so people can choose to follow God or religion or whatever, follow a spiritual path, a wisdom consciousness outside of themselves. And people can also choose to follow themselves, their, the idea that they are God, or that they have, kind of autonomous power in this realm, that, create, destroy, whatever. It's kind of the idea that, I am the superior being in my existence. And those two things are fundamentally at odds from kind of a theological perspective. But, I think we'd probably make the case tonight that it's also kind of does a damage to the psychological side, and, maybe isn't the right way to see things, where, that all of reality kind of works in a similar way, that the things that we do believe and visualize, we're able to kind of do those things because of that process. One could think that it's just me doing it, and I have ultimate power over the world and, this universe and all that. Like, I am the ultimate creator. Or you could see that, you are just maybe a piece in something bigger, and that you don't have ultimate power. You're kind of channeling something that's outside of you that you don't fully understand. And, I'd like to make the case that that is how you should live your life. But it all comes down to how you frame and understand the situation. Anything?
Yeah.
I mean, I can keep going. Like,
No, I mean, I agree. I think yeah, you said a lot there. I'm just
Yeah, it's sorry.
I'm trying to find the good.
It's kind of it's an
I
abstract.
had something I wanted to say, but there's a jump and end point where I'm just trying to get back to, because it's like
Yeah.
I
mean,
agree with the framework.
People,
so it's
people
like
basically have a choice: follow God or follow yourself. And kind of in our secular society, we've kind of people have shunned the idea of Christianity or God. At least in the West.
So I think that's what I wanted to say is, when you get into Christianity, when you get into the following of Jesus and trying to create a relationship with Jesus, not as the idea, but as what is the living God. I believe there is superhuman transformation within that. That being said, if you take that out and just go off of the basis of treat others as you would want to be treated, and just follow the basic how to be happy and how to treat people right kind of philosophy from the Bible, just go down to the basics. Even from that, there is truth to, well, if the secret is the answer where I can just manifest things, then I want a Ferrari, I want this, it's like,
Are you talking about the law of attraction?
yeah.
Stuff we've talked about in previous episodes.
Yeah. So if I use the secret of the law of attraction to kind of manifest things I want, it's not necessarily building me into a better person. That car's just not coming out of thin air. It's through circumstance. And I believe we're all kind of tested, whether you look at that as like a purposeful, like biblical thing, or just like that is our existence. And, either you're tested and you succumb to it, or you're tested and you prevail over it.
If you're worthy of the car,
Yeah. But there's people who will get stuff, and it's like, when you think of when you see a lot of these people who, we would all complain are like the bad rich people, the people who get rich, do what they want, and don't really care about the other people.
Yeah.
The people who get famous
you
and
plebes.
Yeah, the people who get famous and won't sign the little kid's autograph.
Yeah.
The stuff like that, where it's like, oh, you're just bigger than everybody now. It's that kind of stuff where, if you're that little kid, is that what you would want? You finally get to see your hero in person. You never thought you would, and you're 3 feet away from him. And you ask for an autograph, and you're holding it out, and the guy just puts his hand up and keeps walking. Part of you is going to be like, don't meet your heroes.
Yeah.
And then that becomes that reoccurring thing of like, I guess when you get to the top, it's all about you. It's not about other people. And it's like, it's a bad thing to keep perpetuating. When you have money, you just become that way. Well, people all want your money, so you have to put a wall up. It's like, no, you could also get your money in good ways and have good faith, and not, just give people money and let them hurt themselves and get into addiction and ask you for more.
Yeah.
You could also buy stuff for them and try to help set them off in certain ways, hook them up with certain jobs.
Right. Or like, a lot of businesses create a lot of destruction and kind of, leave a wake in their path to profits or whatever.
And that's basically what I'm saying is, when you boil it down to just the basics, it's, if you picture yourself getting to where you want, do you see the people around you surrounding you in that future? Do you see them looking up to you like, man, he treats me the way I want to be treated? Or do you see these people as jealous, envious, all these other things? I think that's a big separation, is a lot of people, when they follow like just themselves and idolize themselves, and they're like, I am God, or, everything is just whatever. God is just this thing. It's all of us, and like, it's what you make of it. Like, if you create your own identity of it, and you're like, it's whatever you want to make it, because that's how reality works. Like, however you structure it. I mean,
yeah.
None of us really understand what the heck this is,
Well,
but the thing is, when you structure it that way, a lot of the times you'll find that a person will drift off and will treat people not how they would want to be treated, but not like in an emotional reaction or something like that, but in a structured belief system kind of way where it's
Right.
like I said, like the people around me only want me for my money. So now I have to view people differently. You know, I have to start looking at everything as black and white. I have the money, so these are expectations. I have the money,
Right.
so now girls want me. And it gets to a point where it's like, I guess I'm just at the top. I guess I'm just the best. I guess I'm better than other people. You know, it's like, it might sound crazy to inflate that, but it's like
Yeah.
it starts in these incremental things, but where else could it go? You have to build yourself in some way.
Which is kind of crazy too, because I think even now more in our modern society, with the level of technology that has developed over at least the last 20 years. But this rich people have always lived the best lives ever. But like in this day and age, if you have a lot of money, like if you have $1 billion, that's a lot of money, or multiple $1 billion. That's a lot of money. You basically do anything you want. You can live like a god. You can, live better than the kings of every human civilization that's come before now. And you don't even need a lot of money to live that way. But like these people have stupid money where it's like, I can see how someone would consider themselves a god in this way, because you can make so many things happen. If you have more net worth than an entire town, in like the random rural area of some state, it's like that's a lot of power there. You could develop some factory next to that town and like totally destroy it or something, or like it doesn't matter because you could do whatever you want to make more money. So it's like, that type of
No,
thing,
I
like,
agree. A lot of it though is kind of that outlook. And it's like if a child is grown up and sees his in a good family home, out in the sticks or some other country where it's like we're just on our own private reservoir, so basically. Like this is our land. You see people who work together, and maybe the kid notices a certain way they're struggling to do what they do. And it's like, you provide for us. I want to make this easier. I see you doing this. I think I figured something out. And they actually create something. They end up patenting it. And they end up distributing it and getting it like into a market or selling the idea or something. And they make all of this money, and that money just goes into their community. They're like, there's nothing I want. I did all of this for them because of what I'm focused on the love and loving them.
right.
I see what they're doing to help me, and I just came up with this idea, and I was able to help everybody. Like that same kid could grow up in those same conditions, but the parents, they really don't provide. They really don't care. The parents had it bad off. So they just don't really teach the kid anything. They're not really providing. Like you kind of have to fend for yourself because we don't really we scrape by for us.
Yeah.
That kid, if he comes up with that same kid comes up with an idea, it's like, do you think he's going to react the same way as the other kid? A lot of it is the upbringing and what frames your mind to be like, you know what, I see what's going on here. I'm not going to be a deadbeat loser. I'm going to come up with the same invention, but I'm going to use the money for me, invest in me. I can see you got to fend for yourself because that's what I was taught.
Yeah.
And it's like, from a basic standpoint, you just look and go, well, treat others as you would want to be treated. It's like, why? I wasn't. I understand you're hurt,
Yeah.
but like, you got to get back to that,
Right.
And that's that structure that allows you to go, maybe I'm just making money to make money because of pain from the past. Maybe there is no point in where this is going or what my goal is. Maybe I just want the new stuff to brag. And now that I have it, people are used to it. I need something new to brag.
Yeah.
And it's a reoccurring thing, and that's my existence. Or maybe I need to figure out why I'm doing this, deal with it, and then all of this money can have a purpose, and I can
right.
I can have a real purpose in life, and I can redirect this money into something that actually helps,
Yeah.
like a community, or helps someone.
And that's kind of that reminds me. I think it was maybe 2 or 2 or 3 episodes ago where we talked about, I think it was spiritual warfare, and the idea that there's certain things and forces in our society that unravel it and make it more chaotic, but then the kind of the positive spiritual God force kind of brings people together, and that creates the order. And it's the same thing that you're talking about, where, or the same thing that we're the example that we're laying out is, there's two paths to success, or maybe there's a lot of infinite paths to success. It's up to you how you get there. So the people that, as we talked in prior episodes, if you take advantage of society, if you're taking advantage of somebody to get ahead, that's like a very survival mentality, scarcity of resources, jungle law kind of stuff. It's kind of our primate version. It's the nature,
Which if
but
I could
the
interject,
tribalism.
which if I can interject is basically what I think is triggered in people when you have that harsh upbringing that says I'm alone.
Right.
Nobody else has my back. And then you get that, fight or flight, like either I end up like them or I have to make money and get ahead despite them. And
Yeah.
that trauma just keeps driving that, where there's never enough money because you always see some kind of pitfall and you can never end up back at that point.
Right.
Something that keeps driving.
And the problem with people that are choosing that path because they feel like they need to compete, like dog eat dog kind of, like a aggressive competition type of environment, which, in a lot of cases it is, and people are successful in that type of mentality, which is why it works. It's something that, it's very egotistical from the sense of it's all about me. It's just my needs and me getting ahead and striving over everyone and stepping on their head to get there. But yeah,
I was going to say, just a side note, trippy thing idea.
Yeah.
Is like, I've always kind of like thought, what if, that's why the system is set up the way it is. Because if you have to kind of become a certain type of person to get to the top, it's almost like you have vetted yourself as somebody who's willing to compromise. And once you get to that level, now, if things are structured in a negative, more evil, like not for us kind of outcome, if we have some shadow government that's like, yeah, we really don't like you guys, then isn't that the system you would set up? How do I know I can trust you? Well, I've already watched you make so many ethical compromises to get yourself here.
Yeah.
What if I could offer you another step that would double everything you've done to this moment?
Right. In order to lie, cheat, and steal to get ahead.
And if you do that, it's just like, I don't have to go around and try to manipulate and compromise people. I already know you're compromised. Let me make you an offer. How do I know you'll accept?
Right.
Because you're worth $250 million.
This hard. You've already gotten to this point.
And I know what you did to get here because of how the system is set up.
Yeah.
You can't make it to this level being nice. You will get destroyed.
Yeah.
The only way that you get around the lawyers and you do all this stuff is knowing the right people, either way, you're vetted.
Compromising.
You got here, so you're vetted,
Right. And there are forces at work, and we've talked about that in prior episodes too. It's like
it just makes me wonder if that's why the system is set up in this way that seems to like be just lie, cheat, or steal.
And that's that's the thing too, is that the more unraveling there is out there, the more it grabs people, like the kid scenario you discussed, where it was no love from the parents, and then now it creates more of itself. It continues the unraveling process like a wave. And the good battles that too. It's a check out. We did like 2 or 3 episodes on spiritual warfare. There's a lot there, but what we're really talking about here is that doing it that way, even this like kind of survival carnivore mentality, fuck everyone else, it's all about me. That is in a spiritual sense following yourself. Because if you followed a higher power and you followed God, that you would not think that way, because it would be fundamentally at odds with those intense spiritual dichotomies. It's like it's a good or a bad, like a left or a right, positive, negative,
like
black or white.
Part of you knows if I agree to this deal, it's going to affect people in a negative way that if I was those people I know I wouldn't like. So there's a part of me that says, I would never do that if I was in that position, but here I am in that position and I see it and I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's that what you
Right.
that step, that ethical compromise within yourself of saying, I'm this type of person. Well, maybe I am this type of person, but everybody is willing to compromise on some level, and let me justify it, and that doesn't make me
Right.
easier to compromise
And
myself.
so the thing is, like, even as we talked in the past episodes too, like the ideal situation, and also where we come from instinctually, like as creatures on this planet, is a tribal social society where everybody helps everyone else. So like your actions boost the ones around you, and the whole tribe benefits. Versus what we're talking about in the latter is more of the parasitic, steal from people's shit instead of doing any work kind of mentality. And it's like in one sense,
What, you say my
in a
taxes
tribal
aren't fixing the roads?
yeah, why do we even have we should have silver coated roads at this point with how much money we
They should get fixed in less than a year and a half.
it's like
at
so
least.
so there's something going on there. We should look into that. But no, like just everyone has this type of decision, and I'm going to take it back to the positive side and say that if you live according to spiritual virtues or principles, or if you follow something that's a higher power outside of yourself, you're rejecting to follow the self and your wants and needs and your unraveling tendencies, and you're going with order and structure, and something that's higher outside of yourself that kind of
that
makes
part of you,
everything work.
that part of you that
So
says, when I was a kid, I knew this was wrong. I can't make that deal.
right,
Even
exactly,
though every part of you is like, I want the money,
right.
that ethical part that says, I'll stay in line.
Like the cheesy car salesman that sells people lemons, like he goes home at night and drinks himself to death because and lies to his wife because that's all he does. That's
It's so
the kind of thing.
normalized. Yeah.
So that's what following yourself, like, it will get you success, but we're also talking about following the higher power, getting your mind aligned to where you can still get to the success. Like, one of the most amazing things that I've realized about this life is when you do follow that order path, like, if you provide value for people, then you get money. Or like you
You're
get
rewarded.
you get rewards. It might not be money, it might be situations, opportunities, things just kind of fall into your lap, because if you're actually benefiting other people, or someone individually, or what you're doing benefits others in a way where it's providing a true value service or experience, or whatever, you're boosting your fellow tribe, that's always going to come with success. Because if you do that, like, and it can be hard to do that. It can be hard to do that without taking advantage of people. Like creating, like just a basic rudimentary example would be like, and I don't even like this example, but like creating a product that like solves a problem for everyone. And it's like everyone benefits, you benefit, you help the world. Like, you made some plastic thing, but like everyone got paid good money for it. You didn't like go some weird
But how does it
child
affect the
labor
planet?
factory or something. It's like you
Yeah.
ethically did it. Everything's right, and you benefited, and that's
But
that's
it's
success.
plastic.
And then you can sleep at night. You can tell everyone about it. You can brag and be proud of what you've done in a way where it's not overcompensating for how you feel because you did something wrong, and now you have to justify it to yourself and others why you're a good person despite all the horrible things you have done to get to this level.
And going off of that, going back more into like that spiritual aspect. I mean, these emotions that we feel when we do these things, like you say, being able to sleep tonight versus drinking yourself to death.
Yeah.
A lot of that really comes down to, why do you feel that way? Why does it seem that even if you restructure and believe it's okay to do what you do, why do you still feel some kind of pain? And that pain is the compromise you made. The truth that you said, Well, if I lie to myself and believe this, well, then that truth is irrelevant. But it's like your brain is like a supercomputer. There's still a part of you in this moment that's going, but how do I justify it now?
Yeah.
But seriously, but you're
Right,
trying to
yeah.
use this blanket belief you have of like, it's like that when you're a little kid and your dad says, only the strong survive, you got to fend for yourself. And, if you're abused and you don't get, and nothing's handed to you, nothing's taken care for you, you have to learn everything for yourself. If that's how your mind frames reality, you're going to struggle through life when you get into these situations where you're like, how do I justify this here? There's a part of me that feels like I'm in the wrong
Yeah.
for doing this, even though it's like I don't know better. It still bothers me. It's like it's like there is this underlying presence. So when you look at the Bible, a lot of what the Bible says, is like the good versus evil and how that in terms of like how it reacts with your life. But the Bible, when you look at like the law of attraction and the secret and like manifesting and a lot of the spiritual stuff, when you look at all these other things, it explains it too very clearly. It says, still going off of what I've been saying, give yourself up and follow Jesus. All the things that you want, all the who you think you are, give those things up because that's not who you are. These are lies that you've built around yourself to protect yourself, to defend yourself, to make yourself feel safe. Like, follow me, I'll protect you, let that stuff down, go back to you.
Yeah.
So what the Bible says is when you do this, like the law of attraction, it says, if you follow me. Now, again, the law of attraction makes it very clear that the higher frequencies, the higher emotions are hundreds of times more powerful, they say.
Right.
So
yeah.
the more joy I'm feeling, the more love I'm feeling, like they're saying that power, that emotion, that vibration, that magnetism is pulling in that same thing that just as equally powerful.
Right.
So wouldn't it stand? Now, the Bible says that if I follow Jesus and give myself up, that I will be rewarded and I will be made wealthy. So what I believe that is saying, just to kind of sum it up in a way that you can kind of see and calculate off the secret and all these other things that are preaching similar stuff. I can look at a car and be like, I want that, and just be excited. And these emotions might bring me to this. But what the Bible's saying is if I let all this stuff go and I just focus on just the love and just loving other people. And when a situation comes up, if I'm in a habit of loving other people, I'm going to act out and do something for them.
Yeah.
And when I see what that does for them and they show me real thanks and real gratitude and, oh my God, like I prayed on this morning. God must have sent you to me. And you're like, it is weird. I had a feeling like I needed to give you that 20. I don't know why. I wasn't thinking to give somebody money.
Yeah.
But like, it was clear in my head, this person needs it. And I walked up and I offered it. You started crying, thanked me and hugged me. And it's like, it's not just that I feel like I did something good. It's like, I feel like I now have a connection with that person. Like wherever they go from this point, I helped influence in it. And it's only because of kind of something a little greater.
Yeah.
And what I'm really touching on is when you follow this stuff, that feeling you feel, that raw selflessness of just loving other people. I think whether you're atheist or not, like whatever you believe, like you'd have to agree that if God is an all good God, that's what it would be. God is somebody who says, you know what? I feel the happiness. My highest vibration is when I do something for you.
Yeah.
That just makes you love you. That makes you, that return of love. So when you frame it that way and you look at God saying, hey, if you give everything up and just follow me, just love everybody around you, you'll be wealthy. And what does he say wealthy is? What is wealth? Wealth isn't just money.
Right.
Wealth is money. Wealth is your
Wealth
health.
and
Wealth
rich
is
are different.
your relationships.
Yes.
Wealth is your prosperity.
It's abundance.
It's abundance in every form.
Yeah.
So doesn't it make sense if I follow like we call it the highest power, but what is power? What would you say is if it would be if I took your power? You would sit there and say, well, I probably feel shame. I probably feel fear and hatred and anger. And like, it's like, that's what I would feel without my power. Well, then what is your power? You know, your highest power is selflessness, love, joy, gratitude. It is these highest frequencies. And the Bible makes it very clear. If you focus on just that one frequency, if you focus on the power of, if God is love, if you focus on God, if you focus on love itself to where it becomes habitual and you just bask in just this idea and understanding of love, doesn't it make sense that it would return and tenfold all around you in your life? That if love is what you're putting out into the world, love is what you will receive. If you're focused on the highest form of yourself, then you don't need to think about what would make you happy. You're already happy. Now everything is coming back to you.
Yeah.
If we're talking from an idea of like math and psychology, you know, how, you know, when it comes to like the power of now, the law of attraction, how to frame your mind a certain way
Yeah.
so that you get the best benefit from it. Because I feel like all of us understand that our mind has power and we're just unsure exactly how to use that or what that means. And I think in a lot of ways, that's what this fight is for, you know, of reality, is some people trying to not let you realize that if you just focus on the love that's already in you, you become powerful.
Yeah.
But if we can harness that, you'll focus on all the stuff we're offering, like this brand new car,
And you'll fall under our powerful influence.
and fall into a society that
I mean,
we have framed out.
exactly. And that goes back to what we were talking about with the spiritual warfare and people trying to unravel society for their own gain. You know, that's the egotistical mindset. But what we're talking about is really it's a frame of mind. It's a thought process in a way where, like you mentioned, gratitude. You know, this is one of those powerful tools, and you know, it kind of was like hard to understand, like because that was one of the things in The Secret. You know, kind of the mystical manifestor consciousness idea that the law of attraction, your thoughts are things and you can influence the world. Well, it's all true essentially, but it depends on the frame of the
difficult with
mind.
the hardened heart,
Right, like you can't just want to be rich for your own selfish gains. It doesn't actually work that way, because when you think that way, it's a scarcity mindset, and then you start sacrificing your values and yourself and your ethics, and everything falls apart, and it doesn't actually work. But when you have the mindset of, like you're saying, it's focusing on wealth instead of richness or whatever,
not what
and
society thinks you would be.
right, because
If everything's
even,
fake, then just love yourself, love those around you. Like you'll see people flock to you and love you more than the guy who has the Ferrari,
Right.
because you give a return to them
and-
spiritually.
and the thing too is, like, a lot of these people that do make the money, it's then they can't buy the wealth. They have all this money, but they don't have wealth, and it shows because they devolve and have sex with little boys or something. But like,
Seems rampant.
what wealth is, everybody in your life liking you and responding well to you, and everyone that you interact with, it's just a positive experience and everything's great, and money doesn't even matter as much, because what's the money really for? Enjoyment, and you get constant enjoyment. This is kind of how even someone who doesn't have a lot of money can be larger than life and have the greatest, most powerful life and truly die happily, without having a yacht. It's like, that's the kind of way that when you follow this mentality and you do things in this context, you don't follow your own self. You turn away from the ego, you submit to something greater, which is, it's as much the idea of a God as it is the idea of living in harmony with the existence that you have. It's everyone around you. It's the tribe. It's benefiting the tribe versus stealing their shit at night. It's kind of like, it's what makes us function as a society. It's what makes us happy, evolutionarily, or in our roots of tribalism. And it's what makes us happy in our modern society. And it's what God wants for us and has written about and how we should live our life. So it comes down to how you frame the situation. It's all mentality. You could want success and all these things, but if you just chase it based on your own selfish gains, you're not going to achieve that. So you basically have to frame your mind and the context of the things you're doing in a spiritual sense. Because if you do, it's not going to hurt you. It can only benefit. And you have a lot of people that reject the idea of any type of God, especially Christianity. Like, it's just such a turn off to them that they could never see their success associated with something other than themselves, because they worked so hard for it, and all this. But that's not how it should work, and it ends up you sacrifice parts of yourself that have latent consequences you don't fully understand.
But that's part of what makes you wonder if that's how the system is set up. Again, it's like, what if it's made to kind of depress you? What if it is to make you just focus on the material? What if the point is to separate you so much from the spiritual side of yourself and pander so much more towards the physical side of your brain that it makes it hard for you to be able to, it's like wearing the 3D glasses that are red and blue. And they're trying to convince us that the blue is kind of a mythical thing people used to use back before there was technology, but realistically, we've all been looking through red. They just said it was blue. There was a blue, but realistically it'd be purple, right? If your eyes were looking through it. And it's like, well, maybe back in the day they were just more connected and it allowed them to access another part of themselves. Maybe it was 3D. Maybe it was that 4D part of themselves, that other part they needed.
Yeah.
But if you convince people that's kind of a myth, and this idea of like a higher power or more powerful part of you is just some like Buddhist like nonsense, witchcrafty Christian stuff, like, it's easy to get to educate a whole society, a whole generation in society to be like, this was something because they had nothing, but we don't need it now because look where we are. We're no longer, monkey people who have to use sticks and stuff and talk to the grass. Now we have AI to talk to.
And we're fatter and more depressed.
But with that world, you would.
Yeah.
But we do understand that there was a more spiritual side of us, or at least humans were a lot more connected with nature before we had a lot of this other stuff. I mean, even if you're just going to like the basics of saying, well, before we had cell phones and email and all that stuff, it's like you'd have to write a letter and hope it got there and try and wait for a letter back. It's like carrier pigeons were a thing. It's like people were more connected, more desperate to get communication across to each other because it was that meaningful. It wasn't just something you text because you got time between your break and you remembered.
Yeah.
It was like, this message has to get to them by this time.
Right.
I have
Everything
to
was
write
a lot
this.
more intimate.
And
That's
that's what I'm
thing
saying.
too.
Even if you just cut that out,
Yeah.
it's like you can see the drifting away with people. So society, regardless if it was intentional or not, it's hard to not argue that the way things are, the system that we have set up right now, in terms of like everything being corporations and technology, everything's run by the products being made. You know, it's like you can't walk into a place without seeing tablets to order your food and all this weird stuff to deliver. It's like, where's the people? But it's like, when you see that aspect of it, it's hard not to be, to in your mind, to be stuck in this physical world and justify that talking about the spiritual stuff is crazy.
Yeah.
Because look at all the reminders. It's hard for me to think there's a spiritual side when all I see is physical everywhere I look. You go online, all people talk about is physical. I see Christians, and even these Christians are talking about all this other stuff. I see pastors driving around in a Rolls Royce. It's like, that's a good argument. It's like, but that's also the world that's been created for us. And I think it's on purpose.
Well, yeah, it's like kind of back to the tribal idea. It's like, you know, and one of the things about being a good person and acting in good faith and following a higher power in your endeavors is that people are going to be less likely to screw you over. It's a lot harder to steal from the nice guy who like gives you
Helped you when you had a flat tire.
you know, like, yeah, exactly. It's like, so
Like, he
you
didn't
know,
have to do that.
it's like we're taking a giant mass of people all over the world that are taking advantage of each other. And, you know, because of even connection and technology now, it's not no longer localized, it's globalized. So it's like you're taking billions of people and you're shrinking them down into a small tribe society. It's like you were sleeping in your house and people were just taking shit from your tent all night. It's like you would wake up and fight them. But you know, and you'd be like, what the fuck? You know, we live in the same tribe. Why are you taking from me? You know, you're putting me at a detriment, and now I'm gonna have to do something further to risk my life and work harder in order to fill that void. It's like that is happening on a global scale now. And we've gone outside of that fundamental way that we've
Like the scam ads on
evolved to
Facebook,
behave. Yeah.
or YouTube.
But it's like,
Like, I'm across
know-
the world from you. This is going to cost you money. I don't know
right.
you. I don't know how this will inconvenience you, and I
So-
don't care. You gave me the money.
Right. So
And that's it.
we have people constantly trying to take from us. So it's a lot. It breeds an environment of, well, I
Distrust.
better distrust people and take from others. And, you know, that's kind of, it's kind of forced upon us in a way. But like as we've been talking about, the doing things in a way that offers genuine value, doing things kind of by an ethical code, following God, you know, really doing it, not just saying it, like the mindset, the framing of the mind in everything that you do will benefit you in a way that, I mean, one is going to protect you from that darker side where, like I was saying, even like no one's going to steal from the nice person that helped them out. You know, like it would take a really dark person to do that. And most people just can't.
Or helping the community. When you do something like you live in a village, it's a small thing. Everybody communicates. Nobody has cell phones.
Yeah.
When you do something major for your village, you're not just somebody who directly helped everybody in an area they all needed help. And now they're all kind of like in a spiritual debt of like, this person didn't have to go out of the way to make sure I could do this easier, but they did. But there's also the understanding that everyone else in that little society knows that.
Yeah.
So there's the double down, which is,
Right.
I don't want to hurt that person, but now I know if I do, everybody else will be against me. And why do
Yeah.
I know that? Because do unto others. Something within me says, I know if I hurt them, I know how everybody would view it,
Yeah.
because I know how I would view it.
And you know
There's
what?
an innate part of you.
Right. And the cool, I mean, the moving thing about this idea is that you could look at it from a religious way where it benefits you and society spiritually, or we can look at it from totally a secular way, where behaving this way, having this mindset, helps you, but it also helps your society. You just take God out of it if you want. It still makes more sense to live this way. And if that's what God wants for us, then, does it really matter? Because you'll still get the same benefit. There's a spiritual step that we should all take for
It's
the
just when-
afterlife and stuff.
It's just when everybody's
but
thanking you
you know
for
what I
what
mean?
you
Like,
do.
it just makes sense.
If you don't have a God to kind of put all of your actions onto,
You're gonna take.
you just got to stop yourself
Yeah,
somehow for
That's when
being
the
like,
ego, like, oh,
I am doing
I'm
this.
such a good person.
yeah. And then a year from there, don't let yourself start revisiting that, going, how come nobody else is doing what I'm doing? I'm setting an example for a village. Why aren't they helping? Why aren't they doing this? Why are they just relying on me? Why? What?
Yeah.
I mean, again, when you have a God and you're like, I don't do this for anybody but God. Like, that's what this is. I want to help my brothers because I love them, but I'm doing it because of the life that was given to me. And
Right.
this is how that life should operate.
Because a lot of people.
And acting through that has made everybody love me, and the gratitude for what I've done fills me, and I don't need more.
Yeah.
That's how we're supposed to be.
Because
we're supposed
a
to have
lot of people
purpose.
help others for their own benefit. That's a huge thing. Like, the guy that goes to a philanthropy event or something to meet chicks or something. I mean, okay, maybe that's a double win or something, like if you're helping people and looking for, but bad example, maybe. But like, there are people that specifically go for that reason, maybe. And, this is a perfect example of framing. You could go there with the mindset of you genuinely want to help people and you're open to an interaction with somebody new that you might be looking for. Or you can go there with the selfish purpose, kind of help out, but just for your own benefit. Not really get any spiritual benefit from that side, but get the thing that you want. And maybe it works out. Maybe she discovers you're a shitty person and leaves you a year later or something. And, you learn some stuff, but you didn't really benefit from that experience.
Yeah, it's like things should be natural. And a good example or comparison, I think, to really drive what you're saying home is like, if you're a philanthropist, are you the person who sits there and really looks at the community you're trying to help and says, what do they need? And you try to build something that works with what they have. It's kind of like the Bill Gates thing where they gave them all like these mosquito nets.
Or you inject them with vaccines.
But it's like all those mosquito nets. It's like it didn't work with how they were living their life. They're like, this isn't the problem. Like, we have ways to combat certain things. So then they end up just being like this is pointless. So then they use the mosquito nets to catch fish, and they end up depleting certain areas of fish, which are having trouble coming back. And now they're struggling for food. They did not have that problem before we decided to help them with mosquitoes. Now they're struggling for food.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? It's like, did you go to the area and see what they needed? Or did you go to the area and go, how could I make money helping? It's like the intention was wrong. The same idea, you wouldn't go somewhere and say, this is a place I'm going to meet a girl. No, you have to ground yourself and let it come to you. It's like, if I deep down want to be this type of person, and that type of person deserves that type of person, and that's the type of person I want. Can I get that person without being the type of person I want to be? Well, not by my own definition. So that means I can't play the part I have to actually be. So I can't go out looking. What I have to do is focus on being me, and that person comes. The same idea is like when you're in that community, the idea comes of how to help. When you sit there and say, how can I help? And you go, I think this little tribe needs cell phones. That's a real thing. It's like, why do you think they need, like they're doing fine the way they are. They don't need to reach out to other places, and like they're fine as they are. If mosquito nets throw off their food thing and they're going to need to figure out how they can get access to better food, Well, here come cell phones. And let's slowly create a society where you're stuck in this physical prison where we got you on the AC and the food and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But now you're just so locked into these phones and all this other nonsense
I'm
that
leaving the tribe to come be a DJ.
it's like you're torn away from that part of you that's connected to the earth and just like knows how to survive.
Yeah.
You know, something in tune that you have, you're now separating yourself from, just like you would from God. A part of nature that you're just a part of a connection almost to yourself that you're giving up unknowingly.
Yeah.
And I think I'm ready for my closing, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's about that.
So for my closing, I'll just say, when it comes to working on yourself, filling yourself up, following goals, passion, whatever it is that drives you forward to something, whether it's good, bad, positive, negative, you're depressed, you're super amped and excited, understand there really is two sides. You know, are you putting all of that energy into thoughts of like what will make you happy, like money? Are you filling yourself up physically with everything you're doing, or are you doing it spiritually inside? When you look at the world, there's no end to what you could have or what you could do. So that shouldn't be where you gamble yourself, really, your passions, your heart, you know, your morals, your ethics. You shouldn't gamble it with that. You know, I say you focus inside. When you see areas, instead of saying like, this looks like a tough deal, but I'm that guy, I'm going to become that shark that's going to get the deal. Instead, look internal and be like, it's hard for me to respond this way because this is how I feel. But I'm going to gamble. And I'm going to be the bigger man. And I'm going to respond the right way. And notice and see how that changes you.
Yeah.
That one moment where you make that decision and you follow through, you become that person
Yeah.
a little bit more.
That's
That doesn't go away. Just like when you sit there at that business deal and the guy's like, listen, everybody does this stuff. That's how the system works. If you want to make any money, this is what you have to do. And you're like, well, if this is how everything is at this level, then it doesn't matter. But it does matter. The moment you agree with that, you're pulling yourself down. The same way as when you invest in yourself internally and you put yourself through the struggle, you start to build yourself back up. And you start to climb those things that you fell down from. You know, and again, I don't say that that's what gets you into heaven or that's anything with the afterlife. That's just what I believe we should do.
And
I think above anything, that's what we're made to do. That is how we learn. That's how we educate ourselves. I mean, it's literally our core us. You know, either you go through things and you see the struggle and you climb over it to build yourself and become more powerful as a person, or you fall from things and you just recluse into yourself more and more and more. You hate people, you blame other people, and whatever the problems that started that fall are become the identity for what the rest of the world is. You know, and it's like, I think really if psychology was like a core study from like elementary school up, people might have a little bit of an edge and see the stuff more clearly. But I think even if you're older, you know, it's like it's never too late to recognize the damage of the patterns and correct them. It's not the habit for 40 years that creates who you are. Sometimes it's just simply realizing, and suddenly you see all of it different and you snap into that other person you were supposed to be. You know, but again, you might need a little supernatural nudge from God. So don't be afraid of trying to connect with something you don't understand, as long as you know it is the definition of what is all good.
Yeah.
Don't use a Ouija board.
Definitely don't use a Ouija board.
Don't use a Ouija board. But no, I do think this stuff's important. Just to really close it up, I didn't mean to piggyback on what I said, but it's a real thing. You know, if the Bible's real, if Christianity is real, then what it's saying is that Jesus really did live. He died for our sins, and he rose again, and he is an ever living God. If what the Bible is saying is true, then that means you can still, even right now, have a personal connection with Jesus. Because if he never truly died and his death was meant to give us a connection, I just challenge people out there to test that. You know, it doesn't matter what you believe, test it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
take it serious and be like, all right, if there is something that is all good, purely good, there is nothing bad about it out there, then show me. And if your heart means it, and you're not being facetious, and you genuinely want to know, you will feel the purest love that you didn't know existed. And it might help reframe your perspective on what it is to help the world. There's so many things we went over
I mean,
to do everything.
yeah,
For everything.
It's a tangible.
It does it.
It's a tangible way to process. You know how you should kind of like
It's like the restructuring
Well,
of your
we-
mind back into how we're supposed to operate.
right. What we've been talking about tonight is do you follow yourself and your own needs and your own desires, or do you follow, Jesus, higher power, something beyond yourself? And that's a very tangible way to think about it, like talking to a friend or something like that. We can process that as humans pretty easily, and that will lead to wealth and prosperity in a way that it's not tangibly measured by net worth or anything like that. It's a lifelong, foundation of
You could
truth
you
and
could see a
happiness.
billionaire who's not as happy as you, and you wish you had his money, and he wish he had your happiness.
Yeah.
You know, happiness is simply measured by something that clearly has not been, or I could say it's not quantifiable, but it hasn't been quantified for
Yeah.
the general public.
Yeah.
The idea is this is the stuff you want. Don't think about the spiritual side of somebody not having stuff and being way happier than that guy. You want that guy's stuff. That's the illusion that's been created.
Yeah.
And we just need to restructure and ask ourselves, what do we really want? Do you want a Ferrari so that people seem more interested in you? Maybe you just don't feel interested in yourself and you don't think people like you. It has nothing to do with other people. Learn to love you. That's
Yeah.
all it is. Get in touch with you. Or do you ask yourself, am I doing the things, the way I act and who I am? Would I want to be friends with me? Do I benefit other people? If I was hanging out with me, would I end up leaving at the end of the night being like, damn, I had to buy him lunch and drove his ass around and he didn't pay for any gas?
Yeah.
Like, do I benefit? Or or do I have a problem with myself because I'm that person that bothers me? Really get real. Get down into it and invest inside, not outside.
Because the rich person that does it right and goes, creates a company that helps people, offers value to others, society, himself, solves a problem, does it for a higher purpose, follows a higher purpose. That person's going to be the one that one day they have enough money where they can buy a Ferrari, and when they do, they're going to walk in and make friends with the guy that owns the dealership, and they're going to get that Ferrari at a discount.
They're going to let people drive it just to test it out so
Yeah.
they can say they
And,
drove a Ferrari. It's not going to mean, the physical thing won't mean anything
Yeah, it'll
because
be
it costs them nothing
it'll
because
just-
they're in abundance.
exactly, and that's how we should all strive to live our life. Be careful of following your ego; it will lead you to places that have latent consequences. Thanks for joining us tonight. And we do this live every Wednesday. We got the chat pulled up. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. And
Until
join us
next
next
time, meta perspective out.
Meta Perspective Podcast.